Hello and welcome back to the ISK-Archives. In this video, I will show you how to run level 5 missions for all of the empires. Now do note that I only have one setup currently, so I will only be showing the mission variations for Minmatar missions, but basically all of the level 5 missions are kind of the same. So the same rules that go for the Minmatar missions also go for any of the other factions. There is some minor variations, which I will mention once we get there, but it's nothing major. This setup I have used for Caldari and Gallente missions as well, the exact same setup, just different language types. And it probably also works for Amarr, or not probably, definitively also works for Amarr because the Amarr missions are also the same. I just never made an Amarr setup because, as far as I know, the Amarr missions are kind of ruled by a cartel, and I didn't want to spend half of my time sitting in stations because I was getting chased by 30 people instead of making money. The same is kind of true for the Gallente missions, although that depends on where you run the Gallente missions. But the main spot for the Gallente missions usually belongs to some corporation. Of course, depending in which year you are watching this and which time, it might be a different corporation than it is right now. But right now it's ruled by Russians, as far as I know. And they will chase you with 20 people, constantly try to scan you down, and all of that stuff. But there is also other spots to run Gallente missions as well. I will get to showing the spots for mission running in a second. But basically, just be very mindful of where you do the missions because they are very secure. If you take the correct precautions, it is nearly impossible to catch someone. Or, well, if the hunter knows what he or she is doing, then you will get caught because there is no risk maker in EVE Online in which you are completely unkillable. I mean, even high-sec level 4 mission runners can get ganked. So you aren't immortal, keep that in mind. But I have yet to lose a single golem, and I have been doing this for a pretty long time now. I have also stopped counting the total number of attempts on my life because there has been so many. In this system where I am right now, it's one jump from Mamake, which is basically the Minmatar, one of the Minmatar faction warfare hubs. So there is quite a bit of traffic, as you might imagine, and quite a lot of risk. Also, because it's faction warfare space, it also means that sometimes the pirate invasion, like the pirate corruption, the pirate faction warfare, corrupts the system, and then those guys can, or they're not, I think it's everybody. But the point is, if corruption hits level 5, then that means that everyone can, I don't know if everyone can or only the people from the pirate warfare. So the people who are enlisted in pirate warfare, in pirate faction warfare. The point is, some people can anchor bubbles or use interdictors, and that basically makes your life hell if they actually use them. And also local gets high in this system, for example, especially if pirate faction warfare or the corruption spreads here, because then all of the people who are doing that are in this system or around it. So I have run missions with like 100 people in local in this system. And I didn't get killed, which is kind of interesting. So That's just on how safe these setups can be for level 5s. Also, probably another factor was that no one really cared about me because I was doing something completely different than what they were trying to do. Anyways, as for the mission locations, there is multiple locations, as said before, for all of the different factions. So for Minmatar, there are a lot of agents for the Minmatar Empire or around Amamake, but the best agent actually for Minmatar is, if I can, is, yes, right here in Helgatild. This spot has one problem, which is that it's missing a station. Specifically, like for these setups to work, so for you to be able to run level 5 missions safely in LowSec, what you do is you pre-stage ships in each of the systems where you get missions. Not all of them, but like the main systems where most of the missions that you pull from the agent spawns. And that leads, so basically that means that you don't have to gate around in a ship, which would be risky in low sec in a Marauder. And I already hate this new map. Where did they put the station filters? Where did they? Oh, I don't care about any of this. Station count, there you are. So, for example, the problem with this place here, this is, what kind of connection is this? Okay, so the agent is in this system, Helgatild. Okay, so this means that the agent, he can't give missions here because this is a different region. Or not a different region, well, it is a different region. So the agent can't give a mission in this system, which means all of the missions will either spawn in Bryn, in Anstur, of course in Helgatild where the agent is, or in Torifraun, or even further out. Because of course they can't go this way either, because this is again a different region. So you would want a ship in this system, in Helgatild, in Bryn, in Torifraun, and maybe even in this system. So basically, to be able to use this setup, you would need at least 4 ships, pre-staged in each system, of course, and then you could run this agent, the one that is in Helgatild. The issue with this place is that this system doesn't have an NPC station. So to be able to use this agent, you would need to drop a station in this system, which keeping a station alive in low sec is kind of a problem. So you probably won't use this agent unless you have a big group who can afford to defend a station. And as you can see from the agency, most of the other agents are directly in Amamake or nearby it. For an example, in Auga, which is also 1 jumps from Amamake. So there is a lot of Minotaur agents concentrated here. The problem with the agents that are, for example, in Amamake or this system is that, as you can see, there is a lot of different systems that the mission can be in. So for the agent in Amamake, the mission could be in any of these systems. In Ward, it could be in Auga, it could be in Dal, it could be in Lanthorn, it could be in Seaside. It couldn't be in Gulmaragod because this is a different region. Actually, it's not. So it could also be here because it's the same region. Oh no, it can't. So the missions are constellation based, actually. So region and constellation based, but if it's a different region, it's automatically a different constellation. I just figured this out because I have never gotten a mission in Amamake. So it must be constellation based. Yeah, that's good to know. So the way, for example, this place works, this agent in Gulmaragod works is, as you can see, this is a different region or a different constellation that way. So it can't be in Amarr. The mission also can't be in Amamake because it's a different constellation. The mission can be in Lulm or in Bospoger. It can't be in Damalim because it's high-sec. It can't spawn in high-sec. It also can't spawn in Olfheim because it would need to go through high-sec, which means all of the missions spawn in these two systems, except for one specific mission which doesn't give a shit about spawning rules and can spawn literally anywhere. That's the Rogue Drone mission. One second. I have pulled it here. Actually, the second part of it already. So the first part of this, also the second and third, has a pretty big spawn range, far larger than all of the other missions. These missions is an exception to a lot of missions, to the other missions, because for some reason it can spawn very far away. And that's the only mission that does that, so that's fine. But you pull it pretty often, but you can just skip it, so it's not a problem. I will explain which missions to accept and which missions to decline when we get there. So back to finding a spot to run. So for example, this is how I came upon this system, because originally I was thinking about running from Alba, but then I figured out that Amamake is one of the main places. I mean, this is still close, so I still get plenty of traffic because of this. But it's far worse in Auga. I have spent some time there. And of course, it would be even worse if I was actually running from the agent, which is in Amamake, this guy, because he is in Amamake. So that's something important to take note of. For example, the Gallente spot, the one that I mentioned where I know that currently the Russians live, is the double agent, the most famous level 5 mission spot, actually. It's all the way up here in deep Gallente low-sec. So this system has an agent and this system has an agent, both Albrecht and Barlagret. Also, the storyline agent for these two agents, we will get to why that is important in a second, is in Albrecht. And the problem with this place is that the setup that you need needs 6 ships, because you need to stage one in Espigore, yeah, whatever, in Vestuve, in Barlagret, in Ausmert, and in Kenning. Of course, also in Albrecht. That brings us up to, that's 6 ships. and you will be still losing out on the missions that you put in Gallente. So technically 7 ships, if you want to be completely covered. This is the problem with this setup, or with this location. It needs a lot of ships. But other than that, you have 2 agents. This is the lowest security status that you can get with lowsec, basically, 0.1, which means that the missions will be paying ridiculously high amounts of LP. Also, yeah, if you are in this video, I will explain mission running from the bottom up, but for level 5s, which are a bit different than all of the other missions. It's the same concept still, but it's a little bit different. And of course, as with any mission running, the lower the security status of the system is, where the agent is, the higher your payout will be for the mission. So that's what makes this mission spot such a good location, because it's such a low security status. And there is 2 agents. I ran here for a little bit. The Russians are very persuasive. Let's put it like that. I didn't lose any ships, but they are persuasive. Then there is, of course, there is also the Caldari agents, which Caldari also has a wonderful location, if I can. Where are those agents? Ah, there you are. Where are you? Yes. So this, once again, is a free system setup, because you have 1 agent in Hakonnen, you have 1 agent in Otsasai, and this is just a system. You have NPC stations in every system. Again, wonderful location. It has one problem though. So you need to pre-stage free ships, because you have free systems, which is good, because it's not a lot of ships, it's cheap. And you have 2 agents, which is like, it makes it the perfect place to run. The security status is a bit high, 0.3. Of course, the current one I'm using is 0.4, which is even higher. The one problem of this location is that Fraternity lives in Obe and in this location, and they have people running the level 5 missions here. The problem with that is that Fraternity likes to drop marshals on literally anything they see, or basically anything else, but they will try to hot drop you. They will try to drop stuff on you. And they are, well, pretty aggressive about it. I used to run level 5s here for my first time. Back then, I was still in the Nosec Corporation of Pandemic Horde, and it was around the time where Fraternity and Pandemic Horde were blue to each other, which meant that I was basically protected by Fraternity in this location. Now, I would never want to be on the other side of self-protection, because I watched them drop 20 marshals on like whole enemy fleets that came to invade them. Like, I watched some crazy stuff happen here. Like, they would sometimes, of course, camp the gates and stuff like that, but like, I watched them drop marshals on everything that moved, that wasn't blue. So I would be careful of this spot. Of course, if you're blue with them, or if you are friends, go ahead. This is one of the best spots for you. Also one of the best spots because the agents, both the agent in Otsasai and in Hakonnen, both give Caldari Navy loyalty points, which is, I find it very funny, which is the same station that Jita 44 is based in. So, you know, Jita 44 Caldari Navy assembly plant. And it has an LP store. which means you can directly redeem all your RP, like all your loyalty points, in Jita. You don't have to move a single jump in any transportation ship, which is nice. For the Minmatar LP, you of course need to go to the next or the closest Minmatar station to redeem it, and then bring your stuff to wherever you need to bring it to sell it. That also goes for all of the other missions. Of course, I wouldn't recommend selling your loyalty points anywhere else but in Jita, because all of the other trade hubs don't get as much traffic as Jita. So it's kind of a no-brainer to sell the stuff in Jita. That's where you will get the best prices probably, unless you manage to find some items that you can sell in other trade hubs, of course slower but for a higher price. But we will get to selling the LP part. So this is basically all there is to say to the locations. Be mindful of who lives in those spots, who is near it, and who will try to murder you. There is no best spot for level 5s because, as we have noticed until now, my current setup is below the Minmatar faction warfare hub, basically, for low sec. The Gallente best spot is currently ruled by Russians. The Caldari Navy spot is basically controlled by Fraternity. And as for the Amarr spot, that is basically controlled by, which one should it be? Any good settings? Okay. These are the lowest agents. So let's see. Yeah, Ned. Yeah. And the other one, where does the other one go? Oh, these are far away. Interesting. I have thought about running missions for Amarr multiple times. I never got to it. Anyways, these agents in Amarr space are, as far as I know, kind of controlled and camped by a cartel. So expect some friends, as you could say, if you decide to go for Amarr missions. But of course, if you join them, then you don't have a problem, because then they will be your friends and they will protect you. But as for solo running, if you want to really solo run the missions, or like not even solo run, just like be by yourself with the alts you have, however many alt characters you may have, you kind of don't want to run in the best spots, because all of the best spots are known and used by a lot of people, by big corporations, which have formed around them and live off of them, and thus camp them and protect them. Your pay might be a little bit lower, but you won't be hunted into oblivion. You will still be hunted, you will be in low sec. That's obviously something that will happen if you do anything in low sec. Eventually someone will come trying to combat probe you and drop however many Redeemers or other Black Ops ships on you. Or maybe even bring a whole fleet, whatever. So that covers the spots and how to figure out which spot, which agent you want to revolve around. Actually, there is one more fact. which is one of the most important things. You want to know if the storyline agent is in the same system or same station as the agent you are running the missions for. As you might know, if you have run missions before, every 12 missions, I think it is, you get a so-called storyline mission. This storyline mission, they usually give pretty shitty rewards, except for one specific type, but we will get right back to that. So there is multiple types of storyline missions. You will only get two types for level 5s. You will either get a combat mission or you will get a mining mission. As you can see, I have some ore. This ore is used for all of the factions with all of the missions. So you will want to have some of this or have a mining ship to mine it. The mining mission takes 4,000 units of this ore and it gives you one of the +5 modifier implants. Not that, not that. Yeah, improved. It's not always the same one. Of course you don't. Yes. Yes, so one of these, basically. They sell for around 100 million. The ore, like 4,000 units of this is like 10, 20 million ISK. So it's basically 80 million ISK free. But the combat missions, they pay you a few million ISK and that's it. So the payout from these agents is not really what you are after. If you get the mining one, it's basically a bonus. That's it. These agents are vital for a completely different reason, which is that, well, I will get right to the standings part of it, to why we need that, but basically they give you a massive standings boost if you complete a mission for them, especially if it's a combat mission. It will give you a massive standings boost with the faction that you are doing it for. So if I did one of the missions for this agent, one of the combat missions, I would get a massive standing boost for Minmatar. As you can see, I have done one of the combat missions right here. Plus 0.24 with the faction, while I'm already at 8.4 or 8.19 base standing. This is a ridiculous amount of standing. The mining one gives you far less, like 0.02, but that's also completely fine. The mining mission is basically an ISK bonus. That's it. You don't really need to care a lot about the missions that the storyline agent gives. It's just that you need to run the combat mission from time to time because of all of the missions that you decline. So the way that you run level 5 missions is you cherry pick the missions. You don't always run a mission. Or you have certain missions that you run and certain missions that you don't run. Because you can't, like the ship can't run all of the missions in a way that would make running all of them worth it. This is also true if you run in a carrier, by the way. So this is normal. The The trick to running level 5s is that you are capable of running more missions with the ship reliably and quickly enough to make profitable income than the amount of missions that you need to decline or skip, which basically turns at the end of the day into, of course I can't see you, what is your name? I have interacted with this one, right? So currently I'm on an acceptance streak, but as you can see, you bounce around a lot with accepting and declining and accepting and declining missions. And it moves around a lot. But as long as you never drop below minus 2.0 with the agent. Now do note that this is not base standing, but total standing to the agent, which means that um, the, the skill which gives you more standing if you're negative with any entity also affects this. So you can be like -4 and still be able to pull missions, which is what keeps this really alive or viable in the first place. Where are the social skills? There you are. Yeah. So you of course need social fight, but I was talking about friendly. No, that's for the pirates. This one. So even as you can see, 4% modifier per level to the standing that I have with an agent if it's negative. So like it gives me more standing. So my base standing could be -3, but my total standing would still be only like -1.5 or -1.3, which means I would still be able to pull more missions from the agent. And also, since I have opened this, let's talk about the skills you need for this to be really profitable and working out. You basically want the skills that I have. Fast talk doesn't really matter, but you want social 5, you want security connections 5. This is for your loyalty point payout. You want this to level 5, also the social 5, and you want diplomacy to level 5. And the other skills you can keep at level 4. This is for the money payout, the ISK payout. So this payout, the raw money, it's not so important. You don't need to train it to 5 because, like as you saw, the raw ISK from these missions is not that much. Most of the money is in the loyalty points, which as you can see is a lot of loyalty points. Criminal connections will give you better standings with the pirates, which doesn't matter for these missions, so you can ignore this skill. And the regular connection skill does matter, but you don't need it to level 5. As you can see, it even shows up in your standings tab under interactions, under skill bonus. All of these bonuses are taken into account when you try to run level 5 missions, so use them. So just like with any other mission, you need to meet a certain standings cap to be able to pull missions from that agent. Usually for level 1 to level 3 missions, and very often, or not so often, but Quite a few level 4 mission runners, or at least the newer ones, rely on corporation standing to be able to run level 4 missions. For example, like whatever. Let's pick, I don't know, this corporation. So as you can see in your standings overview, you have multiple options. You have agents, you have corporations, and you have factions. They are structured this way because it shows who is above whom. So the agents are at the bottom. The agents listen to the corporations, and the corporations are commanded by the factions. So basically what this means is, in order to run level 5 missions, for example, or level 1s or level 2s, whatever, for level 2 missions, you need 1.0 standing with either the agent that will give you the level 1 mission that you want, the corporation that this agent belongs to, or a faction which that agent's corporation belongs to. In short, this means if I have +1 standing with Mimata Republic, I can pull level 1 missions and run them for any, level 2 missions, for any level 2 agent which belongs to the Mimata Republic. This also, of course, works for level 5 missions, which means to run missions for this agent, I either need +7 standing with this agent, which, as you can see, I don't have. Where are you? Yeah. As you can see, I only have 5.47 base standing, and with the connection bonus 6.2, which wouldn't be enough to meet the 7.0 requirement to pull missions from this agent. However, as you can see, this gray line is my standings with the agent, and this blue line is my effective standing. This is so high because, as you can see, it even writes it there, my standings are so high with the Minmatar Republic. Of course, this would also be this high if my standings, like my standings could be 1.0 with the Minmatar Republic. But if my standings were +7 or higher with its corporation, which is, where are you? Public Security Services, then I would also be able to pull missions. As you can see, each time you decline a mission, it takes a hit as well. Each time you complete one, it goes up. Of course, the storyline mission, this is where the storyline mission I run. You can see it gives a big boost, but it doesn't matter. If you only have one agent, you never need to look at the standing that you have with the corporation, because you will mess up the agent first. You need to pay attention to your corporation standings as well if you have two agents and you use both agents, because the corporation standing goes down slower than the agent standing, but not slow enough that it's slower than the negatives you can get from declining missions with two agents. So you only care about what standings you are here if you are using two agents. Of course, the rules will be same for all of the options, corporation, faction, or the agent itself. If you are +7, you with one of them, you can pull missions. What you don't want to be is below -2. In case of the corporation or the faction, it will limit you to level 1 agents, so you won't be able to run level 5s. In case of the agent will no longer give you any missions, ever. That's what we call bricking the agent. The only way to unbrick your agent is to get another character, grind up the standings that you need to pull a mission from this agent, pull a mission, run it, and be in a fleet with the character that brings the agent and share the rewards when you complete the mission. Because standing changes are also shared for missions. That way you can unbrick the agent. But that's very painful, very annoying to do, and I don't recommend doing that. Like I don't recommend bricking or just even getting close to bricking your agent. Like if you are minus 1.5, don't decline more missions. Minus 1.5 overall. Like if your base standing is far lower, I don't care as long as your skills keep you above the water. That's fine. This line here, so as you can see, there is this gray area between all of these dots. The line here is based on your base standing with the agent. Not on the standings that you have with your skills in effect. So looking at this graph is a good way to know that you are at negative base standings, which doesn't mean anything to you yet because the missions are affected by the skills. So you will be safe as long as your total standings with the agent is never below -2, or like your total standings to the agent itself is never below -2 combined with the skill. So the way you can decline a lot of missions is that you use faction standing. You will need +7, or well, at least in my opinion, +7.2 standings with the faction to start out, because you will want to go a bit over +7 so that you can decline all the missions before you get your first storyline missions to keep you above the water. The important part here is that you never drop below +7 with your faction, because then you won't be able to pull more missions. That's why you need the storyline missions from the storyline agents, because these are the only missions that will give you standings with the faction. The missions you pull from the level 5 agent will only give you standings with the corporation and the agent itself. Also, declining a mission will give you a lot of negative standings with a lot of different corporations. As you can see, this is the live modifications. This is because I declined a mission and I got a standings here with the Minmatar, and that carried over to the Gallente Federation as well. Of course, goes for, no, that's because I fight these guys in the missions, but for example, for all, it goes as well, or for the Fucker tribe. As you can see, the standings jump, the storyline mission also influences these. So it means that you don't need to worry about this, even if it looks scary, like seeing all of these go negative when you decline a mission. Like, I will just show you. Actually, that wasn't enough. Now. So, as you can see, all this negative. You don't need to worry about this, because when you complete the storyline mission, you will get so much standings that it won't matter. You also don't really care about these guys, because even if they go into negative, it won't affect your ability to pull missions, as long as your standings with the faction that you are running for are not below 7 plus 7. So that's the importance of the storyline agent. Sometimes, for example, for the Caldari hub that I showed, I need to find it again. Yes. Their storyline agent is like 5 jumps away from this space. The way you can find that is we know that these agents are from Caldari Navy. We can say any level. Here we can say storyline agent, and here we can say Caldari Navy. And this will show you all the Caldari Navy agents, all the storyline Caldari Navy agents. The storyline mission you will get from the closest agent to that agent. That's not the one. That's not the one. That's interesting. Okay, I don't want this waypoint. I don't remember anymore which way it was. I remember going here. What kind of options did you have? CO. Yes. No. That's not the one. No, that I didn't want to do that. Am I blind? Okay, 1 second. Now, give me back my level 5 agent. Yes. Now, storyline. This doesn't matter. Okay. That's good. That's the one. So chances are your agent will be in this system. Also, yeah, as you might have noticed, the security status rule doesn't apply to the storyline agents. They can be in HiSec. And the missions that they gave you might be in HiSec. So this agent could give me a mission that's like 6 jumps from here. In that case, you just decline and move on, unless you really need the standing. But in that case, you need to figure out how to get the ship over there alive and run the mission. There is also 2 different types of the combat missions. I only run one of the 2 types because the second type is really annoying to run. I don't think I will even show it because it's just that annoying to run. Just skip it, decline, move on. Your standings don't decrease so quickly that it matters if you skip 2 to 3 or even 4 or 5 missions. Like once you have a buffer of standings, Like as you can see, I started at plus 7.3 or something like that. It builds up a lot. Like sometimes I just ignore this agent animation it gives me for like 200 missions. I don't care because I can decline so much. Because that one big standing stick that one combat mission gives from time to time is so big, you can just keep declining and declining forever. Like each decline mission is 0.002 minus. So that means declining 100 missions gets me enough negative to have to worry about this. That's a lot of decline missions. But for example, this means that it's very likely that actually, I know it's not this one. There's a different agent for the OutSSI one. I remember doing it. I had to go to OBE. What if I say any code? No, that's not it. I think it was in lowsec. I'm having a bit of fun. Okay, now let's see. You go away. So that's not it. That's not it either. But basically, this is one of the ways you can find storyline agent is that, of course, very often the storyline agent is right in the same station as the level 5 agent, like in this current spot. Or in the case of the Gallente spot, for example, it's, it's none. Interesting. In the case of the Gallente spot, it's in Olveres, which is where one of the agents is, and that's it. But yeah, you can also, if I click to where I am, yes. So you know that the agent is in this system. You can, in the agent searching tab, you can click on, we want to go back to security level 5 Minmaton. I said Minmaton, yes, thank you. You can say show info here. You can look at the station and there is no agents tab. Okay. Yeah, in that case, you have to always go through the agency. But then again, you can just click storyline, click any level, and you'll see, oh, look, there is one Amamake for the Amamake agent, and another one. And you keep scrolling, and you keep scrolling, and that's funny. Ah, yes, right, there it is, in current station, but that's because I'm here. If you wouldn't be where agent is, it would say Bulmaragod. As you can see, it's right here. So that's how you figure out which agent you want to run for. That's how you know where your storyline agent is and all of that. Now let's get to the fun part, which is how you figure out where, or like how you get your standings up this high. Like, of course, you will be running level 5 missions. Level 5 missions incur a lot of standings changes, standings hits. So the opposing faction, so if you run either Mimitor or Gallente, then the opposing factions will be Caldari or Amarr, or the other way around, of course. Point is, the opposing factions that you're running against will get very deeply negative with you, to the point where they will attack you in their space. Yes, if I entered Amarr Highsec, I will get killed by the Amarr police. They will spawn on me, similar to Concord, although they take a bit of time. So if I'm in a fast ship, I can still walk around in a Mars space and be completely fine. I just can't stand still. I can still dock in stations as well. But if I stand still and they spawn, I will be killed on sight. That's basically the only drawback of level 5 missions. Of course, with the diplomacy skill maxed out, which I have, and this is why you want it maxed out, or another one of the reasons why you want it maxed out, is that, as you can see, I'm basically minus 10.0 with Amarr, or very close to it. I would need a single run of the Sisters of Eve Epic Arc to get enough positive standings with Amarr that my total standings are above minus 5, so they wouldn't attack me. So basically, if at any time, for any reason, I want to go into Amarr space and not have to worry about getting killed, I can spend 3 hours running the Sisters of Eve Epic Arc and call it a day. Now back to how to get your standings to above plus level 7, plus 7.0, or well, a bit higher, 7.2, 7.3, wherever you want to be, how much buffer you want to have. I recommend 7.2 at least, higher is better. So first of all, there is a lot of ways to go about it. Of course, we need faction standings. Getting faction standings is not quite so easy. Now, if you are starting out with a relatively new or untouched character, which either already has positive standings with all of the factions, or the faction you want to run the missions for, or is very close to being positive, then it's very easy. It gets harder the deeper negative you are with any of the factions. Because the quickest way to get a lot of faction standings is to run faction warfare missions for that faction. Because in faction warfare, you have something called promotions. Actually, 1 second, I will quickly change accounts and show you this. So here is the account which I used for the secret printer video, the one before this. And it's like, as you know, it has basically maxed alpha combat skills, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that I can enlist it into faction warfare without a care. To show you this. Ah, yes. Now see, this is a problem if you have that. That is because, why are your standings too low? You want positive. Ah, no base standings. See, for faction warfare enlistment, you need positive base standings. Am I positive with anyone? The only ones I'm positive with is Amarr. Wow, that's bad. Okay, 1 second until I find an Amarr station, then, I guess. And with that, we are back. Now that I'm in Amarr, I can finally show you the faction warfare stuff. So yes, I want to join. Wonderful. So if you join faction warfare, why is this so bright? Anyways, you will have access to under activities, so-called faction warfare tab, which has this wonderful thing called a progression. See, inside faction warfare, there is multiple ranks. Now, each time you earn one of these ranks, you get a massive boost to your faction standings with the faction that you are enlisted for. So in this case, I will be getting standings for Amarr. Of course, these aren't like storyline missions or story arcs. Sorry, they are like storyline missions. They are not like epic arcs. That's what I meant. Standings gained from here will cause derived standings, which means if you gain standings with Amarr, you will take massive standings hit with Minmatar and Gallente. You will also gain standing with Caldari, because Caldari and Amarr are friends. So if you gain standings for Caldari, you will gain standings with Amarr. If you gain standings for Amarr, you will gain also standings for Caldari through derived standings. Unlike in an epic arc, where you only gain standings with the faction that you are running the epic arc for. That is also a different one of the other methods to get a lot of faction standings. However, you only get like plus 1.5 standings for an epic arc, which is not a lot considering you need plus 7.0 and you can only run an epic arc every 3 months. Like you can only rerun the same epic arc once every 3 months. So, and you would need to run it like 6 to 7 times. Probably because the higher you get into standings, the lower amount of standings it gives. So you would need, I don't know, like 1.5 years of just waiting and running the epic arc to get the standings needed, which is stupid. Which is why we do faction warfare missions instead, because our other standings with our enemies will be absolutely murdered by the level 5 missions anyways, so it doesn't matter. Don't do this if you care about your standings with any other faction, because it will kill your standings with the opposing factions. The way these ranks work is they are based on your standings with the Faction Warfare Corporation. In the case of Amarr, that corporation is 1 second. Yes, I haven't done anything for these guys yet, so I don't see it. It says right here, Anti-Militia, the 24th Imperial Crusade. That will be the corporation's name. It will show up once I actually do one of the missions or do literally anything. and I will show a few missions. Faction warfare missions are very simple, except for one. If the agent tries to give you a mission where you have to bring something back to the agent, it doesn't matter what it is that they need you to bring back. If you need to bring back an item, do not accept that mission. The reason for that is the missions which need you to bring back an item are a massive pain to do. All of the other missions, which is like 95% of the missions, all of the other missions are basically hitman missions. Kill this and you are done. Kill that and you are done. Faction warfare missions also work differently from regular missions. So first of all, you will be enlisted in faction warfare. If you don't know what that means, I recommend watching a video which explains how faction warfare works. Basically, this is the short version of it. You are no longer safe in high sec because if you are enlisted in faction warfare, anyone else enlisted in faction warfare on the opposing side is allowed to attack you anywhere at any time because he is your enemy. Concord will not protect you. So if you enlist for Minmatar and you try to go to Jita, well, not half, but quite a lot of people in Jita will try to kill you because they won't get Concord, but they are allowed to kill you. I mean, if you take a Blingy ship and try to go to Jita, people will try to gank you, but that's different. So that's something to be wary of while you are in faction warfare. Also, the faction warfare missions, once you warp to them, you will see this when I get to actually running them. Once you initiate the first time warping to these missions, to the mission location, it will spawn a beacon which everyone in the system can see and warp to. This means that you are not safe. People don't need to combat probe to know where you are. So it's pretty easy to figure out where you are with this scan. And then they can warp to your site and they can try to kill you. The good thing is you can run the faction warfare missions, even level 4 faction warfare missions, in very cheap ships like Tech 1 cruisers or in a Jackdaw or in an Argos and so on. And I will also show that when I'm running the missions. The point is, this line is based on your standings to the faction. Running faction warfare missions is the quickest way to increase your standings with the faction, like with the faction warfare faction, corporation, I mean, sorry. Yeah, so I mean the corporation, in this case, the 24th Imperial Crusade, which means that now I will be looking for security missions, of course, highest available. I don't want to have this ticked anymore. And I want to run 40 Amarr Empire and the 24th Imperial Crusaders Corporation. This will show me all the agents. Now, this is quite a bit different from how you run a level 1 missions regularly. So what we will do now, like what I will do now, is go through basically all of these low-sec agents, or at least a good cluster of them, and pull a mission from each of the agents. Because the way that faction warfare missions work is you have to travel a long distance. But all of the agents are usually bunched together to like 10 to 15 jumps. Yes, I want to optimize. See, all of the agents are in these like 20 jumps, and that's a lot of agents. um, I don't think I can I run? No, I can't because then it would show. I can't run level 2 yet, but that's not a problem, that's fine. Um, I think an Argos can do the level 4 just fine, so I will try an Argos. Basically, once you get enlisted in faction warfare, you just run the missions until you get enough of the promotions here, enough of the ranks, and thus enough standings that you are +7. Now, I won't go all the way on this character. I will just run a few to prove a point. The missions from level 1 to level 4, the faction warfare missions, they don't change. The only thing that changes is the enemies. Like, if the level 1 mission needs you to kill a frigate, then the level 4 mission variant of that will need you to kill a battleship. That's the only difference there is to it. This also goes for all of the structure killing missions. Kill, I don't know, this structure. The structure will just have more effective hit points. So if you can do the level 3 mission in 10 seconds, then you will be sitting there for a few minutes for the level 4 mission, because there is a dramatic increase in effective hit points from the level 3 to the level 4 missions. But it doesn't matter, because the rats still won't be able to really touch you. You can just take a bomber, an Algos, Jackdaw, fit an afterburner on it, and just orbit around everything. Have like 40 kilometers of range and just snipe. That's what I will show and do now. But before that, I want to discuss a few other methods, or well, the methods leading up to this point. You see, when you are, like as you see with this character was created for Amarr. This is an Amarr character. These are basically stock standings. Haven't really touched these ever. And that means that I'm only positive with Amarr. So in order to enlist for the Caldari, for example, I would need to do something to get my Caldari standings above, or like above 0. So there is also ways to get a pretty significant amount of standings with a, like for a faction, while you still have negative standings. I will link all of the sources, the Wiki articles in the description, but there is things called, I don't know exactly what they're called, something like data archives or some site like that. Basically, you can bring tags there and turn them in. You might need a combat ship, so if you go there, go in something like a Tristan, regular buffer with Tristan or Argos, because they might need you to complete an agent before that to get some certificate. It also gives you faction standing, so it's good. A little bit, but it's good. And then you just turn in a lot of tags and you get standings. Of course, if you are negative, you will only be able to run the level 1 agents. It's a nice little standings boost, not a lot, but if all you are lacking is like, I don't know, 0.1 standing or so, or 0.2 maybe even, then it should be enough. There is multiple of them as well. So there is like 3 or 4 of the level 1 agents for each faction as well. Of course, you can only do these missions once. It's a one-time thing. Another way is by running the tutorial agents for that faction. So if you didn't notice, there is the tutorial agents, the tutorial systems with the introductory agents. Each of the factions has 3 of these systems, and each of the 3 systems has a set of agents, which means that that there is a lot of these agents basically. And if you complete all of the missions, the whole mission chain, the whole tutorial chain, you get a little standing stick. There is also an Wiki article which lists all of the systems where all of the agents are. But yeah, I will also link that. It's not big, but it's like 0.1 or so standing per agent. It's not a lot, but if you don't need a lot, then it's enough. Also, in total, it's like 1.5 standings if you do all of them. It will take quite a bit of time, but it's not a small amount of standings in total. Another way is, of course, there is the anomic missions. I don't recommend trying to get the standings with those because you will only be able to do the level 1s. But those are also an option, so I will also link those. But hopefully you don't need them. And then there is, of course, the most important one, which I, of course, can't see on this account, which is wonderful. It's the Sisters of Eve Epic Arc. There are plenty of tutorial videos and optimized ship fits to run it. I don't need to explain that one. It's better if you just look up a guide for it, or most of the people looking at this video will know anyways what I'm talking about. You can get like 1.0, 1.5. Actually, like more than 1.0 plus standings from the Epic Arc alone. So if you do all of the tutorial agents, you do the Sisters of Eve Epic Arc, that's like plus 2.5 faction standings with the faction of your choosing, which is a lot. So unless you have run level 5 missions or done a lot of bad things against the faction that you want to run the missions for, you really shouldn't need to grind a lot to get to the point where you can enlist in faction warfare. Of course, beyond these options, the only other option left is running level 1 agents and running the storyline missions after that. Or you wait for 3 months for the next Sisters of the Epic Arc. Or of course, there is the option of buying standings from other players, which will run their Epic Arcs for you and then share the standings with you. But yeah, that's it. And I will be back shortly after I have accepted all of the missions probably, and with a new ship as well. Yeah.